everybody. Welcome to the Sharon and Joe Show. My name is Sharon.
Hey y'all, how you doing? My name is Joe. I'm kidding. No, here's we're looking at maybe buying a home one day in the Tennessee area, and I'm just trying to get my accent down. No offense, because anybody who lives in Tennessee or South, because we want to get there one day. I'm getting sick of the snow. So go ahead, take it from me.
All right, you know what? That was like the weirdest thing because I didn't know he was going to say that. I was like, what's he doing? Oh my gosh. All right, I don't think I'm going to pick up that accent though. You think you'll stay with that when we move to Tennessee?
Well, don't you have like a northern accent of some sort that you tried very hard to work on to get rid of? So we could pick up on this one.
I'm packing my car. You got it. All right, well, I'm sure this is enough for everybody. Joe, what should we do tonight's video on?
Let's do it on what we read a couple of days ago out of James. Faith without works is dead. You know, I had a good friend tell me a long time ago, he said, Joe, it's very important to pray and have faith. But if you're planting a garden and you're growing potatoes, I don't give a crap who you are or how long you pray for those potatoes. If you don't pick up the hoe and you don't pick up the seed and fertilize, ain't no potatoes going to grow.
You know, it's so funny when you say stuff like that because I don't use it quite with the colorful language you do, but I've said that to people. It's just like amazing to me. Just a little side note, how one person will tell you something and then you tell another person and it kind of spreads. And I guess that's what we're trying to do with the channel, right? Is like spread inspiration or spread ways to help you when you're dealing with a narcissist. So Joe, how are we going to help people tonight?
Well, I don't know if we're going to help them. All we can do is share experience, strength, and hope. The help actually comes from the source, you know, God, as you see God to be. But let's talk about, remember when we had a discussion about 7 or 8 months ago and we were like doing some shadow work and looking inside pretty deep. It took a lot of honesty and open-mindedness, but I had asked you, I said, you know, you were talking about your ex and stuff, and I said, well, what was your part? And you're like, well, what the hell you mean, what was my part in this screw up? And we dug deeper. You know, in my experience, my best thinking is what got me entangled with this narcissist. It was a culmination of my stinking thinking, codependency, low self-worth, just bad decisions, mostly based on fear and insecurity. Well, Einstein said, one of his quotes, the same conscious mind that got you into the problem cannot be the same mind that's going to get you out. So Sharon and I were discussing about, well, when did things start to change? And I had a good friend tell me a long time ago, he said, you know, your best thinking got you here. So what you have to do is act your way into better thinking. So we looked back in our past and kind of came to the conclusion, we call it the ABCs of recovering from abuse, is we had to do something different. Like, if you do what you always did, you'll get what you always got. So I was talking to Sharon about her experience, and she said it is when I started doing things differently is when I started to change on the inside and it manifested externally and things appear to have changed on the outside, but truly you were changing. And then we talked about prayer and how important it was while we were doing things differently that we were building on like a conscious contact with the God of our understanding.
You know, Joe and I, this is actually not the first video we made tonight, and we made this other video, and we realized after we made the video that we were really on two different pages.
We were off. I wanted to read Psalm 40, the whole damn thing, which would have took 20 minutes, and you guys wouldn't listen to us. And then Sharon was like doing what Sharon does, man, inspiring and wanted to give a pep talk. And she had mentioned, like, you got to change your thinking. And it was a play on words, but it didn't, I was trying to understand that. And we talked about it. It's like, you know, our thinking is what got us involved in this mess. In our experience, you know, ignoring red flags, low self-worth, codependency. And we took a look deeper and it was like, really what needs to change is our perspective and our perception. Well, how do we do that? We did things differently. We took different action than what we did in the past. Remember that the narcissist is all about attention, adulation, and just feeding them supply. Well, Sharon mentioned, you know, that the one time she had like a spiritual experience in the bathroom a few years back, and she didn't realize it at the time. And it doesn't matter if you had a spiritual experience, immediate one or not. It's going to happen if you do things differently. She started to like go little to no contact. I think it wasn't that. It was like more gray rock. You stopped giving the narcissist the attention and the respect that they did not deserve.
Well, yes, because I was telling Joe, like I kept going on about, what had happened, and Joe's like, "Look, it doesn't really matter. It's like, what did you do? What changed?" And for me, I would, so I'll tell you that I had a spiritual experience where, like, I was immediately healed of codependency. I know it's not really an illness, but I stopped being that way. And then Joe's like, "Well, what do you mean?" I went gray rock with my ex immediately. Like he had to go cold turkey essentially.
Yeah, and you were saying, Joe, I didn't realize it at the time that I had, like, I was immediately like, kind of healed from codependency. I got open my eyes. What matters is you started doing things differently, and you started there. And there's a saying, it gets worse before it gets better. So again, these are just suggestions. We're just sharing our experience. There's all kinds of ways to do it. But the bottom line is, we did things differently. Now, tell us a little bit about, like, when you stopped giving him that supply in this quote unquote marriage hostage situation, I call it, that you were in. Like, what happened?
So, this is, Joe mentioned this a minute ago, and I just want to highlight this. What I try to do with my channel, I've always tried to do with my channel, is tell you what has happened to me, what I've done, because I did it and because this happened, I know it can be that way for you. But like Joe said, sometimes things can get worse before they get better. And that really happened to me.
In a nutshell, just in a nutshell, say what I know. That the silent treatments and stuff really started, like, coming on strong, and he was like missing in action and started drinking more, and he was kind of like, in a nutshell, he was mentally deteriorating.
It was the biggest shock in my life. Remember, I didn't know this. I didn't know I was doing this. I don't even think I don't think I even had heard of narcissism or codependence. But essentially, what happened is that I was healed of codependence, and I just cold turkey, I stopped giving my ex what he wanted. Like, he wasn't getting adulation, or like, it was literally nothing. He went down so fast. It was incredible. It was just, he was giving me nonstop silent treatments. He was drinking all the time. It got to the point where, you guys all know the story with he had the gun at the house. And this was all because I went cold turkey. I stopped giving him what he needed, and he turned into somebody who was so mentally ill. Like, there were times when he would just stare blankly at a wall. So this all happened when I stopped giving him, like, what he needed.
So in the meantime, so Sharon and I are, like, just talking, like, because we wanted to bring up a good topic, something that we could all relate to or give some suggestions. So it started there, and then I know Sharon, like, I want to kind of get you talking about this because it was just easy to follow. So at a point, like, you started your snake business, a little bit of side money, like you started setting aside money. Like, what other things, like actions, were you doing? Like, did you see his reaction? It's actually from that, I think, that sprung you on to learning about narcissism, because of the silent treatment and other stuff. So,
yes.
Like,
you know what? I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of, like, unfold, like, so it was through that then you were like, man, I got to get some kind of an action plan here, because it was a point you were so hopeless. You were just hoping one of you were going to die if that was the relationship was going to end. So talk a little bit about that.
Okay, yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because you're getting me, like, on the right track here. So I stopped giving him, the things that he needed, but that was just part of it. I was originally in this other video Joe and I made, I was kind of saying, all right, you got to change, you got to rah, like I was cheerleader Sharon here. But Joe kind of brought me down to, all right, you know what? What did you do? I started doing things that were good for me, that were good for my children.
Right? It wasn't like some big freaking running a marathon or playing the lottery and you hit the lottery. Little simple things.
It was, yeah, and it was like, it kind of, and this I hope will help you, because for me this was happened slowly over time. If you know the way to move forward. So it wasn't just that I stopped giving him supply. I started doing things for myself, for my children. Like, I realized, and all this stuff, it would just hit me like boom, boom. Like, I'm just like kept getting shot. I realized one day, like, my ex used to tell me he was going to do, my God, you guys, he was going to do every single thing for me. He was going to, like, take me to this, buy me this, do this. That was like his whole deal. And I realized one day, and this is probably for a lot of you, like, yeah, right, there you are, Sharon, queen of the obvious. He's never going to do these things. He is never going to do these things. If I want the things that I want, I need to make some money. I need to make it happen myself. So I started my own business. I started, you guys know I'm a snake breeder. So if you want a discount, 20% off, if you want to buy a snake, just let me know. Hit me up. Mexican black king snakes. We have 4 of them. But anyway, but that's what I did. I started doing things that were right for me. I started studying foreign languages. I started improving myself. I stopped just waiting around for him to change, essentially. I did what I needed to do, and that started opening doors.
And then coupled with that, like, is when you started making, like, trying to build on your relationship with God. You got back into the faith of your childhood, something that was just instilled in you, and when you're growing up, and a part of you, and you were building on that relationship with God. It was just, you took me through it like an hour ago of like everything that was happening. So it was little baby steps, doing things differently, working upon your own self-worth and self-esteem. Those are things that were intermingled and so just dismantled with codependency, not even knowing, but it was through your actions that sparked like finding out about narcissism. It was like connecting the dots, like, holy crap, like my father was a narcissist, holy crap, my husband is, and like things started to unfold because you took action first and didn't try to think your way out of the problem.
Yes, I took action in all areas of my life. So it was financial, it was social. A lot of you know that my ex used to tell me, like, oh, people don't like you, blah, blah, blah. I just started doing what I wanted to do. I started reaching out. I started making friends. Like, I started to live, you guys.
Didn't you start going, didn't you like kind of go back to church and like, so you were scared shitless, you were saying, but you went into this like group that was, yes, like the people with shared the same faith, and like you started making friends, and like the narcissist was losing power and just like mentally deteriorating.
Guys, if you can picture it kind of like, in your mind, my ex was like spiraling downward unbelievably fast, and I was rising up. That's really what it was. When you're in a narcissistic relationship, entanglement, whatever it is, and you are the codependent one, you don't live. You just like exist. It's no life. It's horrible.
I fell into the trap, you guys, of studying narcissism where I should have a PhD on it.
Yes.
The cluster B. And knowledge alone isn't the answer, because the knowledge only talks about the narcissist. Like, it took a lot of, like, it was through building my relationship with God that I was able to be like, okay, now in my case, I was married to this thing for 20 years. Like, okay, for the first month or two, abuse, but for 20 years, I was running out of excuses. I had to say, okay, what the hell needs to be like changed in me? I chose to do this, and I felt trapped too, but being able to look at my own defects, like, in with God's help, I was able to change the things that I could, because I can't change anybody, let alone a narcissist. That was insane. It got me to a point where I was hopeless, where I had to cry out to God. And then it was through little baby steps. Like, I started going back to the gym. I was walking, little baby steps to build on that. And like, God does the rest. He leaves like little like Reese's Pieces, like in E.T. when Elliot was trying to bring E.T. up to his bedroom, where you start connecting the dots. And like we said at the beginning, it's like my thinking was the problem to begin with, but it was through taking different action that I acted my way into better thinking.
The real reality for all of us is that improving yourself is the answer. Doing things differently. Joe and I both did that. We went about it a different way. I had this like immediate, like I was struck by lightning type of spiritual experience. Joe was crying out to God, but between the two of us, we did the same thing. We moved forward and did what we had to do.
Yeah, there's no timeline. The bottom line is like, sometimes it happens quickly, and other times it might seem like it's forever, even though it's not. The bottom line is that it will happen. It'll materialize, this freedom and serenity, if you work with it, and if you're building on like a conscious contact with the God of your understanding.
Personally, Joe and I both believe that God is your answer, but it's listening to what he tells you to do. And sometimes it's really obvious, like you'll just know. And other times you have to, get into the Bible, read the Bible, hear his word, and go from there. Essentially, what I did, what Joe did, is we started, putting ourselves first. I mean, that's a kind of a vanity issue, not that, but when you're in a codependent relationship, the other person is always more important. So you do what's right for you, and so many things follow along. A business, my kids were happier. I had friends, like things that I hadn't had before. Joe, like you went back to the gym. What else did you do?
I was going to school. Like there's all kinds of things that I was doing for myself, and not in a selfish way, but in, Shakespeare's quote, "To thine own self be true." And it was through bettering myself that the people around me, my friends, my children, were started to benefit from that too. So it's definitely a combination. I think of it as a cross, where you have the horizontal line. That's I'm making like new friends and new things, and then I got that vertical line, which is with the intangible things that I can't touch, smell, or see. And it was a combination of building my relationship with God and taking some different action that I had in the past, and I was getting new results.
You become a different person. You're the same person, but you're different. Like I was telling Joe earlier that my ex, if he saw me, if he was here right now, he would recognize me. He would know who I am, but he doesn't know me at all inside, because all the work that I did, all that change, I literally am like a different person.
Yeah, I think it's like the psychologists say, your personality isn't great from the womb until you're like 7 years old. It's more for me like a shift in my perspective and how I see things. And from that, it's a shift in my attitude. So I'm responding and not reacting. And I'm taking action, either from people that have been there before, or when there's nobody around, I have that, conscious contact with God, so I'm never alone.
And the thing is too, when you do this, say my ex wasn't a narcissist, right? Like he just isn't a narcissist. Me doing this would improve our relationship. Like our relationship would have been improved, right? Because we're like, I'm being the best I can be. Maybe he would be the best that he could be. But the reality is, if you do this and you have a narcissist, you will see the narcissist implode. Like today, when I look back at it, it's shocking. I mean, my ex was at a mental hospital. I mean, like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, it was to that degree. He hasn't seen his kids in years. Everything changed when I improved. He didn't come along with me. I realized how much he actually needed me. So many times we think we need the narcissist. Oh my God, you guys, it was horrible. But so remember, sometimes something bad might happen as you go along, but ultimately it's your road to freedom. Think about like having a baby, right? It hurts, it's bad, it's horrible, but then you have that baby. It's like that when you are with a narcissist, when you have your freedom, nothing, guys, oh my God, nothing is as sweet as freedom, especially when you feel like you are never going to get it. That my hope was not in God. My hope was in my ex dying. Now everything's different, and I want this for all of you.
And it's not just a freedom from the narcissist, it's a freedom from codependency,
Yeah.
the freedom from the bondage of, the generations of garbage that came before me that I inherited, and the decisions that I made, which were very just diluted and bad decision making. It's a freedom from your mind. If you want to find God, you got to be out of your mind, because He's not in there. And as I said at the beginning, in my experience, my best thinking got me entangled with one of these things for 20 years. But when you take different action and you align your will with God's, like He'll direct you. He will open doors and windows. He created you. He loves us. And this was a lesson that I had to learn. Loving myself, my true self, and that came from a relationship with God and taking action.
Joe and I have spoken, like we just mentioned at the beginning of the video, that we're thinking about moving to Tennessee. We also talk about other things in the future. Like the two of us are really excited. Like, I said to Joe the other day, I was like, if I wasn't in love with you, if I wasn't with you, I would not be thinking this way. But like having grandchildren, and how exciting it's going to be that if we keep this up, if we teach it to our children, we'll have a healthy family, and our grandchildren will never know. They'll never know this type of dysfunction that both Joe and I grew up with, that very sadly our kids grew up with. We are going to be in the position, and all of us can do this, we will be in the position of changing our family dynamics. Like, there'll be the future children born, they will never know this pain. And that's like one of the most exciting things ever.
One of the most ironic things, other for me than I had to be hopeless in order to find hope, is that it's narcissism, codependency. It's just so much bigger than me. It's too big for me to like fight. And when you have that contact with a God of your understanding, it's like it could be like good versus evil, but it's also, like Sharon said, stopping the generations of garbage. Like, it's not just about me. It's like we're helping, like as we unlearn all this crap that we've learned our whole life, like we're helping next generation of people come into the world and making the world a better place.
And you know what? I think I'll end it on that, because what else can you say? I mean, that's the best thing ever, to transform and change your entire family, something that was, dysfunctional into something that's beautiful and wonderful. I mean, it really doesn't, like, because what you're saying is true. Without love, like, what is there,
I got to a point where, in Sharon too, where we realized that God did for us what we couldn't do for ourselves. And to be loved by your creator and have a relationship with him, he's not just this God of the universe that doesn't know you, and to know that he can use you to help other people out, is just, to be a part of his will is the best thing you could ever want in your life.
The other thing, you guys, Joe and I were no different than you. Like, I used to watch videos and I would always think that this person was able to get out because they had something I didn't have. Joe and I, we are two people coming to you where we believed. It wasn't like maybe, we believed we were hopeless. This was never going to happen. Changing our actions with help from our God was exactly what we needed. And today we're free. We're almost done, with these divorces, and we have a future ahead of us. And I can't wait. And I want all of you to have that too. So thank you so much for listening to this video. I know I was gone last week. I don't plan on that this week. I'll talk about a little bit about that on Wednesday. But I hope everybody has a wonderful week, and I will see you Wednesday. And Joe, will we see you next Monday?
Absolutely, God willing.
All right, y'all. See you later. Bye.